Greetings, heathens and heretics, Maiden fans, and this toss bag. You right?
I'm fine.
How's things?
Well, family good, usual.
Good. I've got a bit of a hangover, but there you go. It is what it is.
Don't do it, kids.
Do these silly things. Yeah, don't drink, kids. It's bad for you. Right, so this week, bit of an unsung banger, but an unsung banger with a little bit of a difference. Now, at the moment, Maiden are on tour at the minute, 50th year. We can't wait for the upcoming show at London Stadium. It's going to be an absolute banger. We obviously just talked about the set list, our prediction and whatnot, which we were, I think 9 we got right in that. So
I mean, we'd keep our lives if it was a autocracy. Maybe.
Just about. So go and check that episode out. I mean, obviously the set list is out there, but go and check it out. You can see what we thought.
You get to hear us talk, so
what more could you want? But so unsung bangers, right? Now there is a Maiden one for me, but not so much unsung, but maybe underappreciated for just how good it is, and it also sort of takes us into this whole era of Iron Maiden. So Maiden's last album, Senjutsu, this absolute behemoth of a record.
You need to take a day off just to put it on.
Yeah, you could do a workout, listen to this, and it is a very long album. It's triple album. I mean, to be fair, it's fucking cool when you look at that. Maiden do this kind of thing very, very well. So, why is it an unsung banger? I just think it's obviously a very long album. It's about 4.5 hours, I think. But when we saw Maiden on the last tour and they played some of these songs, they sounded fucking incredible. Hell on Earth in particular.
Yeah.
It was just a pure epic. So I suppose the argument is like the Maiden we love, The Trooper, Number of the Beast, Power Slave, all of that. We love all of that, Killers. But I've got a real appreciation for albums like this because, while I'm not a prog fan, Maiden take the prog thing and do this kind of shit very well to a certain extent.
Yeah, they don't take the mick, basically. They recognise ultimately it's about the songs, it's about the engagement, and you've got to get that balance. It's all well and good doing interesting stuff and going in all sorts of different directions, but I think the key difference here is Maiden have always exercised an element of self-control. They know when to stop.
They know when to stop.
They know when to stop and when to pull back.
Well, maybe.
Yeah.
They've had their moments.
Yeah. Well, they've had their moments and they've realised that they shouldn't have had those moments. I think ultimately that's the key. No, it's they've been doing this for years. I mean, pretty much their entire career has been touching on prog, hasn't it? You can't go back to. I mean, Killers, for Christ's sake. When Paul Di'Anno was in the band, there's barely any choruses on it, and it was trying all different things and moving here and there. So it's not something they started on Seventh Son. It's not something they abused on X Factor. It's
abused.
It's an established part of their career, but they know they are fundamentally a balls out metal band. They're not the kind of band you just sort of sit on the grass in the summer listening to people on guitars whittle all day long.
No, fuck that. And flutes and all that kind of shit.
Yeah.
But, talking about the songs, the title track that opens the album is great. I'm a big fan of the Writing on the Wall. I love it when Maiden do those sort of groovy songs. It's a bit like Benjamin Brig on A Matter of Life and Death.
Yeah, which we'll talk about. I do rate that song. That stands out for Iron Maiden. It's very different for them, isn't it? It's I'm trying to think that main riff that sort of moves it on. It's not a heavy metal riff, is it? It's almost.
Fuck me.
No, is it stoner riff?
Yeah. I mean, it's as close as the closest Maiden ever got to being Sabbath. But
let's not
go there.
Yeah, come on.
But there's a really cool video of that. Maiden did a little BBC Radio 1 session, I think it was, and there's a video of them I think it's at Abbey Road as well, of them just all in a circle playing Benjamin Brig.
Yeah.
And there's something very cool about it. In a band like Maiden, stripped down into it.
It was very, very un-Maiden, wasn't it?
But it was really cool, but it fits that song. and the writing on the wall is very similar. Yes, this is very much a, you know, an album that tells lots of stories, as Maiden like to do, but, you know, stuff like Death of the Celts, you know, when, yes, you've got fucking go back to the Klansmen and things like that, but this is where they got it right, I think.
Yeah.
You know, it's...
I'll have a look at this. Yeah. Look, I think this is certainly probably the strongest album, I think, since Brave New World.
Okay, that's an interesting one.
I do. Well, we are going to discuss the sort of period in between, aren't we, shortly?
Yeah,
we do want to really.
Yeah, so
I think
that was the next question. Where do you think it sits with that? You know, the post 2000 era of Maiden.
I think it's probably maybe just their second best. I think. Yeah, we have different opinions on the other albums, don't we?
A couple of them,
but I think overall it is long. It's but it's the strength of the songs. I think not my issue with it. Ultimately, I'm all about the music with a lot of the time. I think, you know, lyrics are personal to people, but I do listen to this, and, you know, sometimes you can tell, yeah, it's pretty obvious that Bruce voted Brexit, can't you? It's very, you know, some of the talk about, you know, losing your empire, and I don't know, sometimes, you know, almost like that we're enslaved, and I kind of feel, oh, that's a little bit, I don't know, maybe a bit inappropriate, but
you're never going to stifle Bruce's opinions.
No, but ultimately you can't look at it as a straight up, that's what he's definitely saying. He's a storyteller. He knows his history. He's got his politics. It's you know, there's much worse out there when it comes to, you know, lyrical content. Yeah. So yeah, but I do sometimes hear that. I thought, I don't know, whatever. It's all about the music for me. And, you know, we talk about Hell on Earth. It is one of the great Maiden songs.
It's a proper Maiden epic, isn't it?
It is absolutely phenomenal. Yeah. It really is.
Bruce's soaring vocals on that, he just sounds incredible. You think what Bruce has been through with the throat cancer and everything like that, and obviously his age anyway, it sounds amazing.
Yeah, I think what I also I do have to sort of give a big shout out to Stratego. Is it Stratego or Stratego? Stratego? I don't know.
Answers on a postcard.
Yeah, there we go. I mean, this feels like just straight up chart attempt, doesn't it?
Yeah.
And we haven't had much of that in the new Bruce era. I mean, okay, you had the Wicker Man, that was probably the obvious, but even so, that feels like a sort of a weak spot, even though it's prime Maiden. And a couple of times on Dance of Death, but I think the albums after that.
That part of Maiden, I think, is almost gone. They're very much down, you know, this sort of long-winded way of structuring albums, and that kind of brings me on to the last couple of albums, which I think are a bit of a dip. We can go back to Brave New World and Dance of Death and A Matter of Life and Death, but Final Frontier, I mean, I'll let you talk about it. I think it's one of Maiden's weakest albums.
I like Final Frontier, I really do, and I'll say no, I prefer it to A Matter of Life and Death.
Fucking hell.
Which
fucking Pulp all over again.
It's no, I mean, I think the Final Frontier, you know, I'm not going to claim it's one of their best albums. I'm really not, but it felt fresh. I think for me, just trying a few new things out, moving their stuff in a bit of direction. There's almost an introverted quality to some of those songs, and it did feel quite refreshing. And I often come back to it. I think quite frequently.
What about Book of Souls?
Book of Souls, I'm not going to say it's a bad album. I mean, it, you know, compared to, I don't know, the Blaze era, it's great. But the problem is, it's too long.
Way too long.
And because the songs aren't strong enough to be allowed to be long. Here, it's fine. It's fine because the songs are strong enough. You know, long albums, okay, you know, rather not. But if you're going to do it, you can get away with it if the songs are strong enough, and they are here. They are not on the Book of Souls, and it's just not an album I revisit very often.
I don't think I've hardly listened to it since the year it came out, kind of thing. It's not one that I ever really revisit. And every other Maiden album I do.
And this is the thing: is when an album is effort to listen to, that's when, you know, it's a problem. And
that's an effort to listen to on vinyl.
It's an effort to actually like get up and keep doing it, but you're happy to do so.
Yeah.
But Book of Souls, it just feels you know what? I think I'll listen to Senjutsu again.
Yeah. So where does it all sit? So Brave New World was the comeback.
Yeah.
And it's not just Bruce, don't forget. You've got Adrian Smith and obviously the songwriting that he brings.
Yeah.
Brave New World, this first time we saw Maiden, wasn't it? Earl's Court, Metal 2000.
And this is the thing, is we talk about like the great Maiden performances, and you will always say the Clive Burr show at Brixton in 2005.
Yeah, it was 2005, September
when they did those tours, and it was a great performance. But for me, and it's not even a performance thing, but the Metal 2000 show they did at Earl's Court in 2000, that's one of the greatest gig experiences of my life, because that's the first time we all saw Maiden. You know, I'd undenied about going to see them with Blaze, you know, just after I'd got into them at the same time. But it also felt like, well, you know, it's not Maiden, really Iron Maiden, is it? Am I that bothered at this point, even though they got me into metal? And obviously then this happens, and it's like, oh, it's exciting, isn't it? It could actually happen. You know, we'd hooked up on a friendly basis, obviously, only when studying. Started going to gigs with each other and other mates, and it was like, oh, we're going to have to go. We're going to get to see Maiden finally. And they announced that it was with Slayer and Entombed.
What a lineup!
And I mean, maybe it wasn't the best performance from all three. It was a good gig, but not, I think, a classic gig. But the occasion.
It was the moment.
It was the occasion. You know, going to we pretty much finished our first year at uni at that point in time. Gone into London, you know, early afternoon, straight up to Earl's Court,
Maiden
to
Day.
the pubs, and it was, and this was the first time, I think, as a metal fan, and bear in mind this is 2000, so we're deep into the new metal era, which, you know, I like some of that stuff, you know, but it was out, the battle vests were out, you know, the old schoolers were out, and all of the younger people who actually, they like the traditional metal, we can be open about it now. It felt like we all got released from some sort of, like, you know, asylum, but you know, we weren't allowed to be shown to the public, and we're walking up and down streets and just like doing yes Maiden to random people we've never seen since.
There's nothing like a Maiden Day, is there?
And it was wonderful. You know, we got talking to people who'd seen Maiden in the early 80s, seen Slayer on the South of Heaven tour, that kind of stuff, and you know, we were 20 years old, but we felt at home.
Yeah,
I think, and it was just a wonderful occasion, and that will always stick with me, I think.
I don't disagree with that. I mean, it's hard to pick a favourite Maiden gig. You could almost say the last time you saw Maiden is always going to be your favourite time, because it's Maiden. You know what I mean? The last tour, they were just fucking absolutely outstanding.
And I'm sorry, but we have to say Nico McBrain.
Yeah.
You know, 5-6 months after he suffered a stroke,
he was back out on tour,
and we didn't have. Well, I mean. Yeah, maybe his drumming wasn't as precise as before, but you know, they're all older men.
Yep.
You know, you allowed for that. We wouldn't have known what he'd experienced. So no. I mean, come on.
No,
the man's a trooper.
Yeah, he's a fucking hero.
Yeah.
But that was Brave New World. I mean, Dance of Death came after that, and again, it's a bit of an odd one. Dance of Death. There is a little bit of sort of meandering stuff in there, but you've got songs like Passchendaele.
Yeah.
Which is just again another proper Maiden epic.
Passchendaele but also straight up Maiden, Rainmaker.
Yeah,
I love Rainmaker. Yeah. Absolutely. You know, just a great chorus, entertaining video. No, I think you know, that's an 8 out of 10 album. It's
shocking album cover.
I mean, Christ Almighty. You know, they did someone not say it's like that's a demo cover, mate? That's not the final version.
Yeah, it's fucking terrible.
It's the most. I mean, you can look at everything all the covers of the 80s and even the 90s to an extent, and they're very much of their time. Yet that cover of Dance of Death, it's the most dated, isn't it?
It should have just been Eddie, you know, as the Reaper, and that would have been enough. But all the dancing nonsense around it,
you know, weird autons,
just a load of shit. But it is still, a very good album. And again, they were great on that tour, no fault in it.
Yeah.
But my favourite album from that whole, you know, Senjutsu comes very close, but I think A Matter of Life and Death was the third album after Bruce and Adrian Smith came back, and I think they really hit their stride. But it is a bit of a Marmite album.
It's divisive. You know, we've interviewed people, and one of our guests, funny enough, actually, it was Bones from Telgunner.
Yeah.
He hates the album.
Yeah, it's an odd one.
And I don't hate the album. I don't dislike the album. But there's always been a bit of a I don't know how to feel about this sometimes. It's just, and it always ends up sort of sitting at the back of my Maiden list because I kind of, it's a very weird one. You got the Benjamin Briggs.
Yeah, we talked about
and this is terrible. I'm sort of struggling to remember some of the names of the songs almost.
Look, for me, it was For the Greater Good of God was the standout song on the album, and look, they played the album in full. I went to see them do it at Earl's Court, and look, you had Eddie in a Tank. What more do you want? You had fucking Eddie in a Tank.
Yeah, I mean, I have to, you know, for me, that was the album cover was by Tim Bradstreet, who did a lot of Punisher and Preacher comics. Fantastic artist, and really, for me, I mean, it more than makes up for the bloody previous album. But you know, after all, you know, the Derek Riggs stuff, it was something quite different and refreshing. So I will absolutely credit that.
No, it's just a fucking banger for me, and you know, there's not much that Maiden do that you can rag on. You know,
no,
they've obviously got their duff moments, but you know, Bruce and Adrian Smith coming back to the band, you know, that extra songwriting talent, you know, they have nailed it. I think, look, as much as I don't so much like Final Frontier and Book of Souls, they are still, you know, they're still Maiden albums. They still stand up to any other shite that's out there. But and again, when the standards are that high.
Yeah, I mean, when I saw, I think at that point I decided I'd only see a band once on their album tour, just because, you know, money basically.
Yeah.
And I only saw Maiden on the Book of Souls tour at Donington 2016, which was, you know, that was download properly. Gave me a horrendous cold, so I kind of associated that. But the thing is it, you know, the songs fit in very well with everything else. So I don't know that, and I think the big thing that underscores how overall certainly the period has been up to a certain point is in 2010 when they played Sonisphere, they effectively did a new era set, so that focused on the four albums from Brave New World to Final Frontier. They did a few classics. I mean, they did Fear of the Dark and a couple of, obviously, you know, the obvious ones as later encores. But again, it was a wonderful set, and you just realise how strong Maiden are later in their career.
Yeah,
you know, they're not just chancers. They're not just, you know, coasting. They're writing great songs, and that was a great show.
And here we are 50 years in, and they're still doing it. So, you know, if you're going to see Maiden on this tour, you're obviously in for a treat. We all know it, but it looks like quite a different production this time. You know, obviously no spoilers, but they've, I don't know, mate, it looks completely different to me. The little bits I've seen.
The thing I notice is the drum kit seems to be smaller.
Yeah, that's really noticeable.
Yeah,
really noticeable, because obviously, you know, you never used to see Nick McBrain. It's just drums. But you know, I've seen a couple of video clips. I haven't done, you know, too much, but it looks like it's worked. You know, so yeah.
And look, they're not going to be terrible. They're not going to be bad. You're going to come out of it with an absolute shit-eating grin and want to do it the night after, even though you haven't got tickets. So.
Maiden Day. There is nothing like Maiden
Day. It is. It's an occasion. I mean, we're seeing them at you know, London Stadium.
The wrong claret and blue.
Yeah. But it's a nice easy. It's for us. It's a nice easy train journey. It's and that's it. You get up. We're going to head to the Cart and Horses for pre-drinks. You know, I've never been to that pub, and that's gonna feel like, you know, a homecoming.
No, it'll be a special day.
And it's just going to be Maiden fans, just, you know, blocking that road, pissing off taxi drivers, and screw them basically.
Iron fucking Maiden, baby. Sharon Osbourne, go fuck yourself. Right, so that's Maiden. As ever, don't forget, go and check out rcbw.shop and try some of these wonderful beers from Radio City Beer Works. Absolutely magnificent. I'll talk again about Pale Satan, the Metal Hammer one. Yes, Metal Hammer always let us down with Machine Head reviews, but to be fair, you know, this is a great collaboration, so check that out. It's really, really good. Looks like a milkshake, tastes wonderful. Get involved. Yeah, that's it. Thanks for watching. Chuck a few comments below about this whole era of Maiden. It's always good to see people's opinions. I think a lot of people probably slag it off, but that's wrong. Shame on you.
Yeah.
But yeah, tell us what you think. And until next time, thanks for watching. Stay metal.
Up the irons.
Up the fucking irons.